Welcome to the Birds and Nerds podcast. In each episode, I explore a topic I want to learn more about with an expert in the field, and somehow we always find the connection, sometimes unexpected, to my favorite animals, birds. Did you know that 55% of Americans don't have enough savings to simultaneously weather a loss of income and a rise in expenses? That's why I turned to Joanna Smith-Ramani at the Aspen Institute to discuss innovative new ways to strengthen American families financially and help the most vulnerable among us. Working collectively to help the most vulnerable is something that you see in nature, including among birds. In this episode, you'll learn that together a flock is much stronger than each bird fighting to survive on its own. I'm Ramona Schindelheim. This is Birds and Nerds. Joanna, thank you for joining me on the podcast, and I appreciate you sitting down and taking some time to talk about something that's really important to me as well as you, helping people find financial security and economic mobility. And part of what I do on the podcast is bring in someone like you who can help us find a pathway to this. Tell us what you've been doing and, help us maybe help others along the way. So tell me what, at the Aspen Institute, what your mission is.
Yeah, well, so we're a big institute. We've been around. It's our 75th anniversary this year. So happy 3/4 of a century to us. The Institute's full purpose is really around solving the world's most critical challenges. And we do that by enabling leaders with the kind of networks, knowledge, experiences that help them do brave and courageous things, because no one can do it alone. So we're kind of firm believers in the good of humans and the ability to make big change and be disruptive when we're working together. And in our program at the Financial Security Program, we take that same, ethos and focus on the creativity, ingenuity, and goodness of humans to do good things, and work on what you kind of opened with. How do we make sure more Americans were domestically focused, but are more financially secure? And in particular, it's really about wealth functions so importantly in all of our lives. And it's how we thrive, and it's how we have economic dignity. It's how we have intergenerational wealth. It's how we participate fully in community. So more families need wealth. And how do we make sure there's real ownership and wealth for households across the country?
I always think about this idea of the financial security and economic mobility and tying together, but the idea that if you don't have that level, that balance in your life, it's harder to achieve other things as well.
That's right.
If you're always worried about, putting food on the table, then how can you enjoy what the rest of life can bring you? It's a
Yeah,
big concern.
that's exactly right. I mean, the reason, what I care about, honestly, like personally, Joanna, not Joanna in this role at Aspen FSP, but the thing that drives me every day is I genuinely care about other people's children. Like, I want all children to have what my children have. I want them to contribute what they can, like reach their full potential. I want them to have joyful lives, and grow up to be joyful adults. And foundational to all of that, I have discovered my hypothesis, my path to
Mhm.
truth, is that foundationally is financial security. For a young person to be able to do that, for a parent, for a mother like me to be able to provide that in education, in their healthcare, in the stability of their home, in the things they get exposed to, is that you frankly need not just money, not just income, but really the wealth underneath it to be able to make those kinds of investments in your life.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that also builds a stronger economy, but a stronger community as well.
That's right. Yeah. In fact, at the Aspen Ideas Festival this past year, we did a whole session on wealth and ownership in the US. And it wasn't really about how does that make me personally better off. That's well documented. There's lots of research. People know if they have private wealth, what it means in their life. But it really was, what are these other benefits you're talking about, Ramona? How does it go from just the individual doing well to their family doing well, to what does that mean in community, in state, and honestly, in our democracy? And there's some really cool wealth innovations happening in the country that are measuring that. So when households start accumulating more wealth through ownership, partial ownership of their business that they work at, or through their housing that they live in, what does it mean in terms of their ability to now vote, be civically participating, be stable enough to help the family next door or the two families next door, right? And really create more of a community strength.
I sat in on that session at the Aspen Ideas Fest, and I had known about the ownership of a business, so co-ownership of business, and how that, like Harley Davidson is an example that I've seen through ownership works, and the idea that you're giving a piece of the company and letting them make some of the decision. Not
Yeah.
only does it give them that idea, as you said, being a member of the society, more participatory, but it gave them that wealth. What I
Right.
didn't know was about the housing, and I thought
Yeah.
that was really interesting. Being able to be a co-owner, moving in and becoming a co-owner of the place that you live also gives you a sense of security.
Well, right. And what's so neat about what's happening through sort of residents owned cooperatives and manufactured housing, where typically people typically always own the manufactured housing they're living in, but not the land underneath. And so converting that to cooperative ownership is that part of that is setting up a legal structure, which means you're setting up some kind of governing system that you may never have had the experience to be involved in. So you're learning how to be in a governing system and you're getting the kind of investment in you, right? To be running kind of this cooperative business with your neighbors. And in some of those programs, they've seen those owners go on to then run for office. Like, well, it's like, oh, I can do this. Of course I can do this other thing, right? They've already built this community sort of literally. Um, and now they want to give back and have broader impact. And they have both the kind of financial stability, the cognitive load is down because their finances are steady, they're more in order, they have wealth behind them, such that they can be taking big bets on themselves and big bets on their communities. And I mean, this is sort of an understatement, but like, truly, how cool is that? Like, if you really, sometimes I get overwhelmed thinking about what is the potential we're missing in this country, because people are living in real financial insecurity and stress. Like, what are the health innovations, the drug advancements, the scientific, knowledge, the creative policy, like all these things we could be getting to if people weren't feeling so stressed and strapped that they couldn't invest in themselves and make big bets or couldn't do what they want to do for their children. Like, our country, which thrives on creativity and entrepreneurship, and just like ideas in the marketplace, we are really like holding our own selves back by being content with the kind of financial insecurity and poverty that we have.
What are some of the barriers that you see right now that are standing in the way of us achieving this? What you very clearly define as an empowerment. What's standing in the way?
I mean, some of the stuff we talked about, with the leaders that were at the festival is really around it's not so much that we don't know what to do. And in fact, when I'm talking to people, I'm like, look, there's a good amount of wealthy people in our country. Like, that's okay. And that's true. That's just
Sure.
factual. That's like not a moral statement. And we know how they got wealthy. So what were the kinds of financial instruments, access to capital markets, intergenerational wealth that they had? And can we, almost synthetically provide that to this next generation? So that those solutions are there and exist, and there's sort of new creative riffs on that from all the innovators that we work with. And one of the big issues is capital flow. How do we invest? What is the right kind of investors, either government, private sector, philanthropy, the mix, right? The stack of all of it that's necessary to scale up those innovations is a big part of it. What are the enabling government policies that we need to create the right environment for private sector to participate, or for families who are sort of the least secure to have, the real kind of like infrastructure they need to get by, is another piece. And, the part that we've been working a lot on at FSP, I've been here for a decade. I like to think of it as my diamond anniversary, diamond forthcoming, is that, as we were talking about earlier, financial security, wealth, and ownership is foundational to a lot of the kind of advancements we want to see in our country, from education outcomes to health outcomes, other kinds of sort of social concerns we have. And we have been working a lot at FSP because we are so lucky to work at the Institute with people working on all these other systems
Yeah.
to think more intersectionally across systems, both in the public and private sector. We will not solve all of this on our own if there is still burdensome medical debt and bad health outcomes, right? Education, when I talk to educators directly or with folks in that system, they know that hungry kids who come from houses where they don't have sort of stable housing, they're not going to thrive in schools. So they're all interacting with each other, and we've got to be much more thoughtful about the complementary policy and practice.
There's a lot of gig work out there, people working, you know, they're getting unpredictable paychecks. That's
Yeah.
a good way that I've seen you phrase it. Very unpredictable, and that again underlies, the one of the barriers. If
Yes,
you
that's totally right.
yeah, if you have an unpredictable job, and so you're right. There's so many other things there that are impacting people, and so the people who probably have those unpredictable paychecks are low income families, and I would imagine it's harder to bring yourself up from the middle to the top than the bottom to the top.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such an important point. We spent a lot of time working on what we call income volatility, whatever it is called, what it is exactly as you described, where you're not getting what I am fortunate enough to get, which is like, I mean, and in my family, my husband gets a paycheck on Friday and I get it the next Friday. So like
Yeah.
we have like sort of the every other paycheck, when my world, the most ideal situation of cash flow coming in, where it is really unpredictable. Those jobs often don't have benefits either, or sufficient kinds of benefits. I think in our country, we tend to think we can make everyone better off just by income, but it's actually the combination of income, benefits, and wealth. All of these things need to happen. And I don't, when I think about the ways in my life that I'm financially secure, again, my parallel of what's happening, I'm not high net worth, but what is happening with high net worth people and
Yeah.
how do they get there? They have jobs with benefits. Like you can't
Mhm.
beat a retirement account, really good healthcare insurance, group healthcare insurance, paid leave is necessary, either sick time or vacation time just to rejuvenate yourself, but most certainly sick time. And and like some places even offer sort of childcare help, but there's sort of no one thriving in this country without benefits. And that's just the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
So those same jobs that you're talking about very rarely have sufficient benefits. People are cobbling together different jobs, never eligible for benefits in any of them, and then unable to have the kind of investable money you need to get into wealth and ownership.
I've been lucky as a journalist, writer, that I've belonged to two different unions, and I've worked for companies, and I'm not high net worth either, but I've worked for companies that provided healthcare
Yeah,
benefits. My union provided a reasonable and good pay for,
right.
there were minimums on that, and there are protections in place where I, couldn't just be fired for no reason, right?
Right.
So
Yeah,
having that structural security is very important,
yeah.
and there are a lot of companies that offer it, which I think is fantastic. But then the gig work is a hard thing, and a lot of the people who are delivering the food or driving, the the ride shares are, they don't have the benefit of those securities. So again, I just see jobs that provide benefits. I totally agree, are a very
Yeah,
good way
yes,
there.
totally. And some of the ways, again, this idea in my mind of like, well, if your employer can't do it, won't do it, your work arrangement with them means that it doesn't quite make business sense to do it, whatever the reason. Again, I'm not going to
Mhm.
be like the moral judgment
Yeah,
person. I'm just
same.
actually
Yeah.
looking at like what is going on in our country. What are other ways to do it? I don't have to be stuck in the ways that we've been doing it. And we're seeing different, really cool statewide policy innovations happening across the country with paid leave happening. So Maryland, has sort of a private public partnership that we've launched around paid leave for households so that if your employer doesn't offer it, you get it through the state. There are other states that have passed that. Several states now have state retirement plans. So not meaning you're a state employee and so you get, a good pension or retirement plan, meaning I work somewhere that is small enough that it isn't required to offer a retirement account or just simply doesn't, but I have access to my state's like very good, well invested, safe, secure retirement plan. So I can still do that. So part of what's been happening in kind of the benefits financial security space of like the coolest thinkers, the most creative minds is, do you know where we can get to scale is at a state level. And so can we take the pressure off of employers, frankly, but do really good by hard workers, like people in this country that are busting their butt. And I'm real, they're working literally harder than I am, like much more physically, much more hours for far less return. What is a new different way to think about it? And does that actually get at a scale that costs less, but provides a better benefit to the worker? And I'm thrilled about those ideas. And I think we'll see more of that, capturing kind of the spirit, the policy support, the financial support of more states.
Yeah, California also offers that.
Yes.
And first thing, when I signed up with a company, when I was working for a company, and that was the first thing that came
Yeah.
into my inbox was, here, sign up. I think it's Cal Savers, I think we
It is.
call it
It's
here.
Cal Savers. That's
Yeah,
totally right. Yes.
yeah,
Oh, that's so cool that you were
yeah,
offered it. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. That's amazing.
Immediately, it was like the very first thing,
Right.
which was really great because that way, you can save. Your company's not having to do it for you. You can do it yourself. And I didn't know it existed until I got it in my inbox. So it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
I mean,
Uh,
it's a little bit of like we've done things certain ways for
mhm.
a while. It's worked very well for some set of workers and Americans, because that's what people need to actually thrive and have financial security. But it's worked really less well for a growing chunk of Americans. So instead of saying it just never worked, it's like, well, what were the pieces that worked? What about it worked? What do we need to do to change it and sort of adapt to the way we live and work and do things now? And these different, like Cal Savers is such a good example of saying to ourselves, okay, what is the thing? Let's start with what is successful for a person working. What do they need, and what facilitates that for them? And honestly, who's the highest and best use person, institution, whatever, to do it, and not be really sentimental about how it was done before or how we wish it could be done, but far more pragmatic about who can get it done, who has sort of the influence, power, resources, and reach, and can get to people that we, know are being harmed by not having the benefits or whatever. And let's like try that and see what happens. And so it's just nice that we have a little bit of let's try that
There
attitude
you
versus
go.
sentimentality and
Yeah.
nostalgia, and wishes of what things would happen. You can still be
Steph,
ambitious and pragmatic, I think.
I really like that idea though, is, let's look beyond what we know. There could be other ways. Again,
Yeah.
I know there are co-ops out there and condos and boards and everything, but I hadn't heard it quite put in that the way I heard it this summer when we were
Yes,
talking about the
absolutely.
housing, and I was like going, huh, that's really a good idea. I like it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, oh, let's take that kind of legal structure that's worked really well in other places and apply it
Yeah.
here. Um, I was just, got invited to an event that's thinking about co-op structures and employee ownership and shared ownership around how to solve for the care economy. And I was like, that's really interesting. We know like there is nothing sort of more broken. Well, I don't know. One of the things that is very broken and really hard in our country around a thriving economy and thriving households is actually our care system, or lack thereof, frankly, right? A care system that is awful for the workers, far too expensive for the people who need it, either for their children or for other adults in their life. And we must pay attention to this. This is like a true foundational issue for a thriving economy in our country and real economic mobility. And what kinds of legal structures, models, work arrangements, all the things have we looked at that have worked in other situations and sectors? And let's just do some real creative imagining of what it would look like over care. Let's put kind of everything we know to be good and true in work at care, and we'll get somewhere for sure. And so I'm excited. I mean, that's one area we hadn't talked about, but like that is one of the kind of the biggest impediments to economic mobility, honestly, in this country. And again, I am hopeful. Well, I'm always hopeful. I'm like a annoyingly optimistic, hopeful person, Ramona. I don't
Oh,
know.
oh no. You can't be annoying when you're optimistic. I think
No, thank you.
optimism
I
is
am not annoying.
fantastic.
I am at the right place. I work
Yeah.
at the right place because we truly do believe in the goodness of people and the ingenuity of people, and that if we can get people in the right place and understand the issues the right way, that they'll do something big. They'll take real leadership. And I'm feeling that about care, and I'm hopeful that we can get somewhere good around that too.
Well, you bring up a good point that people don't do this alone. They do it together in
Yeah.
systems. So for all of those following along, there is always a connection between our human experience and nature, I believe.
Yeah.
And birds flock together for very good reasons to protect each other from
Yeah.
predators, to help each other find food. I think you and I, had a quick, brief kind of exchange that penguins, you like penguins, you
Right.
like Baltimore Orioles. Penguins, they flock together, or they call it a waddle,
Yeah, they sort of,
because yes, and I love that that's the name of it, and that's what they call their, kind of the group of penguins on land. And when it's really cold, they actually switch places. So the ones on the outside that are getting cold get a chance in the middle to warm up.
oh,
So it's a humans flocking together to help each other
yeah.
lift up people, just like nature. And
Oh,
I find that really pretty fascinating.
I know. I just was over the summer was in Chicago and at one of the amazing museums they have there, and saw a 20-minute video about penguins. But it was so I mean, one, they're just simply adorable. We have to just state the truth. The truth of the matter is
Absolutely.
they
Yes.
are just so cute, all dressed up, all the time, ready for a gala or whatever, fancy event they get last minute invite to. But I did see video of them doing this really like collaborative community protection activity of
Yeah.
being of this cold huddle.
Yeah.
And then the ones in the middle kind of go out to the end because they've gotten their turn to be warm, and everyone rehuddles. And
Yeah.
it's spectacular to think about how they're taking care of each other that
Yeah.
way. This real cooperative
Yeah.
sense of like, we're only as good as the pack is. We're only as warm as the coldest person in our pack, and we've got to change that.
Yeah, I was speaking to Chad Wilsey. He's the chief science officer at National Audubon Society about this.
So cool.
And he said this is like a safety, it's flocking is safety, but
Mm,
it's what's the right word? It's also preservation.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
have to, if they didn't, you'd have fewer of them, and predators would come in and fewer of them. So it's safety, its warmth, all of it. And I just find it, I don't know, I find that really fascinating that they're just doing it by instinct. And I
totally.
wish we had more instinct in, I mean, we are definitely not birds, we have a more
Right,
developed brain,
right.
but I want people to act on that natural instinct as well. So, it
Well,
would,
I think that if we go back to the resident-owned cooperative model, especially around
yeah,
sort of manufactured housing, it is a little bit of the penguins, right? Like when they get a chance to purchase the land underneath them, they're protecting all of the manufactured homes on the property. So they are sort of become a pack in a
yeah,
way, where then they can all, they invest in their warmth because they do actually, once they all own it, they're able to make real investments in plumbing and electrical and the kind of literal like utility infrastructure that they need to
yeah,
be good, safe, decent places to live that typically are not invested in until they all own the land underneath. So it's a bit of a human version of what is the thing that will tie us together, and it's this plot of
yeah,
land. And then how do we keep ourselves warm? Well, we do the work to invest in the utilities together, and then we share on all the maintenance and upkeep and protect our little spot. So maybe it's penguin adjacent, but it's also
I like
community.
it. I like
It
it.
has to be everyone all
Yeah,
in together.
yeah. You and I are both, I say this every time. I'm not an expert on birds, But
Yeah.
when I start diving into it, I just start getting fascinated by
Yeah.
it. And you live in Maryland,
Right. I
you
do.
love Baltimore Orioles because they're
Can't help
very
myself.
beautiful.
Yeah, we
They're
have to here.
beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
like a rite of passage to be a citizen of the state of Maryland is to love the Oriole.
Well, they're beautiful. And I also like, I was looking at their migration patterns, and I was talking to Chad about it too, is they, again, they're like in North America. I think it's mostly east of the Great Plains. So Baltimore, while they have the name Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore Orioles,
Our own
um,
kind of Oriole, I think that is specific to this region called Baltimore Oriole, right? I
they
think.
they are actually they're around all around like
Oh,
in
the
the
Baltimore
upper.
Orioles around everywhere? Oh, I didn't even know
Yeah,
that.
and
Oh,
they were named. I found this out. I love little facts. I found out they were because they're orange and black.
yeah.
That's the heraldic colors of Lord Baltimore,
Oh,
who was the first.
yes.
He had the first charter for the
Yeah,
state.
from the state, right.
Yeah, and so that's why they got the name Baltimore Oriole.
Oh,
And
I didn't know that. Oh, that's
yeah,
amazing.
I found
That
that
makes
really fascinating. And
yeah.
then here's another little fact.
Ooh, okay.
Sometimes you can see them red and black. And
Okay, I never have seen that. That seems strange to me.
they overeat berries, and that's a part of the reason that they turn red. Yeah,
No way.
yeah,
Seriously? They turn from red to
yeah.
orange? Sorry, from orange to red because of what they
Yes,
eat and
eat too
digest?
many berries. So if you see a red and black one,
That's what
there's a
they
good
just grow up a
chance.
berry pig,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, they are hogging up all the berries in your neighborhood. Yeah, so
Well, so again, I'm just like sort of joking, but I did grow up in Maryland and went away for a little, but then raised my family. I'm raising my family here. So I am a big Baltimore, my baseball team growing up was the
uh,
Orioles, still is, was and still is the Orioles.
yeah,
And then my son is named Calvin. He was born in Baltimore. And of course, Cal Ripken is one of the most famous baseball players
of
ever on the
course.
Orioles. But that isn't why we named him that. But you can't name him that. What we didn't realize is naming him Calvin and being in Baltimore would mean that everyone actually believes you named your child after Cal Ripken. And
Yeah,
frankly, it's fine.
it's
It's great.
fine. Oh no, I'm a
Yeah.
big baseball fan, and
Yeah.
myself, Chicago Cubs is my team.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, my daughter would not have been happy if I named her Ron Santo, though. That would not have been a
No,
good
I
thing.
mean,
Or
maybe
Ryan
like
Sandberg.
Rhonda.
Yeah,
You could have gone Rhonda.
yeah.
Um,
Or I
but
could
in
have just
his
named her
like,
Ryan after Ryan Sandberg. It would have
oh,
been great.
see,
Yeah, yeah,
we lived in this little row house in Fells Point when he was born, and he had the tiny room is a generous way to describe the space in which his crib was. Um, and it was like in the heart of urban Baltimore. Like we didn't have trees on our street, just urban downtown Baltimore. And this one little Oriole would always show up in the window in his nursery and kind of fly around outside and look at
Wow.
us. What are you even doing here? Like, where did you come from? Where are you going to? There is no greenery near us at all. But I felt like that was a little sign that, in fact, maybe we did subconsciously name him after Cal Ripken. And he is a huge Orioles fan, but
He
I
can
love
tell people that. Just let him. He can say it. It'll be great. Yeah, yeah,
I'm named after Cal Ripken. Okay,
yeah.
great.
Hi, hi. Again, two of my favorite subjects in three: economic, mobility,
Yeah.
baseball, and birds,
I was
all
gonna
in.
say, and baseball. Yeah.
Yeah, all in one podcast.
It's a good day when that happens.
I totally agree. So now I'm going to wrap this up because
Okay.
I could talk about this all day,
Sure.
but I want to. I'm going to come back to our main topic very briefly, which is how do you define equity in our society, and how do we not less how do we make it happen? Because I think we've talked a lot of ways to it, but what would an equitable society look like to you?
Oh gosh. I mean, that is kind of right, like what our life's work, or at least my life's work, is about. Your life's work, when I think about all the things you've reported on and pay attention to. I think I'll just go back to a little bit of what I said earlier. I, I want all children to really feel like their community, their country cares about their thriving and is investing in them in all sectors, in private and public. I don't mean this is just like a government responsibility, but that they feel like they are living in a place that knows they have something to contribute and wants to make sure they can get there. I did some interviews a handful of years ago when we were launching some of our work on youth and young adults. And so I was talking to young people in their like late teens, early 20s. And the real is so devastating, Ramona, the ways that they felt that none of the systems that are in their life, and at that point, the systems in their life are largely, school, some government benefits, depending on the young person I was talking to, their jobs, they're like kind of low wage starter jobs. So the labor market, that no one kind of cared about them and who they were and saw something in them, and that they were all on their own. Like that, I mean, that is one devastating for them. They are human beings, rich with things to contribute and offer us. They have ways to make our country better through however their life takes them. And like they're someone's kid, like someone held them, someone loves them. And I think we will know we've done it right when all of the kids, not just the kids that come from private wealth or really, those are the kids who get most of the things in our country. So we'll know we've done it right when all of our children, regardless of where they were born, truly like the color of their skin, like their gender, feel like this country knows I have something to offer and they have set it up in a way that I can make that happen.
Beautiful words, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think unleashing that human potential through providing the security and providing the interest, to help people. I think those are great words, Joanna. Thank you so much for being my nerd.
Oh, I
on
wish
this
you were a nerd
podcast.
and Oriole was our bird. So this is a great day for me too. So lovely to talk to you, Ramona.
You too, Joanna. Thank you so much.
Take care.
That was my interview with Joanna Smith-Ramani, Co-Executive Director of the Aspen Institute Financial Security Program. I'm Ramona Schindelheim. Thanks for listening.